This is not financial advice, not legal advice, for entertainment, educational purposes only. And anything I say is my opinion. Please don't make any financial decision based on anything I say in these videos. Listen, I did a video, I think about 2 weeks ago, where I showed you that these guys had like millions of swap positions that didn't even have expiration dates, so they could just keep running and running and running and running and running because there was no way for them to close them out without crashing and burning. And now you got the CFTC allowing these bad actors to not even report their swap positions anymore. The reporting guidelines that's been in place, I think, since 2012 are no longer relevant to the CFTC. They're allowing like UBS, Citadel, and these guys that are holding millions of swap positions. A lot of these swap positions have AMC in them, GME in them, and this is what they're doing to create their counterfeit short positions. They call them synthetic, but they are counterfeit. Okay, they are counterfeit positions. And now the CFTC knows that there's no way out for these criminals, that the CFTC is now in bed with them. The CFTC is allowing them to not have to report their positions, and these guys can hold on to these swaps with no expiration dates forever. They can just keep kicking the can down the road and kicking the can down the road and kicking the can down the road. But here's the thing. When the liquidity runs out and they can't afford to pay the interest on those perpetual swaps, what's going to happen then, CFTC? When there's no more money to maintain those swap positions, what's going to happen then? How are you going to help your criminal buddies out? Are you going to take taxpayer money and pay the interest on the swaps for them? I'm trying to understand. These guys can keep kicking the can down the road, especially when the so-called regulatory agencies that are supposed to be protecting us and protecting the market is playing ball with them. And the CFTC is obviously playing ball with the swap dealers because they're changing the rules to make it easier for them to create these ridiculously, that I believe to be illegal swaps. And they are letting them do it with no expiration dates, so these swaps can just continue on and on and on and on. And who gets burnt? Retail investors, pension funds, and institutions that follow the rules, because these swaps allow these criminals to create an infinite number of counterfeit shares of any company that they want. And because these swaps are over-the-counter transactions, we don't even know how many shares is in each swap contract. So it could be billions or trillions of AMC and GME shares tied up in these swaps. And the SEC knows what's going on. The FBI knows what's going on. The DOJ knows what's going on. And obviously, the CFTC knows what's going on. And what do they do about it? Absolutely nothing. Well, not nothing, because they are changing the rules to help the people who are creating these counterfeit swaps. Okay? But they're not doing anything to protect retail investors, to protect pension funds, to protect institutions that follow the rules. Everything they're doing is telling me that the CFTC works for the swap dealers. Okay? They don't work for U.S. citizens. They don't work for taxpayers. They work for the swap dealers because they're changing the rules so the swap dealers could rob and steal a lot easier. Anyway, please leave some comments. Tell me what you think. Why do you think the CFTC is making it easier for these swap dealers to create these illegal swap positions? Anyway, have a great day. God bless. And I appreciate y'all on this journey with me.